Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today we got on the show our new friends, Bryan and Lindsay.
Hey.
How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Great.
Good. Thanks, Jerry.
Great,
Happy
Jerry.
to be here.
Good to see you.
I wish that it looked outside like it looks in that painting or photo
Yeah.
that's behind you.
The shady
looks-
road.
Yeah.
That's one of
Yeah.
our Salvation Army finds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hortense Burdell, the 60s in New Jersey, she painted it.
Yep.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So, for those of us who don't know you, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourself and about some of the projects you're working on, obviously including Wild Dawn Farms.
Sure. So we could do like a past, present, future kind of how
Yeah,
to get to know us kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, yeah.
So
we
I
met-
always
yeah.
I always like where you were born and raised
Yeah,
and stuff like that, and how you
Mhm.
met. Even that'll be incredible.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Detroit and raised in the suburbs.
I was born in Southfield and grew up in like the Pontiac suburbs.
Yeah. We grew up about an hour apart from each other in Michigan, right along M59, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I graduated from Eastern Michigan University.
Yep. And I graduated from Wayne State University in Detroit. I studied urban studies, thinking I wanted to be an urban planner. And then I found growing and I couldn't stop. Became like obsessed with growing and working with plants and people.
You know, after I graduated, I worked in grocery retail for up till today, really. Kind of worked in the entire gambit, you know, small chains and up to now a large corporate chain. And yeah, just met Lindsay 5 years ago while we were working for a small brewery, Upstart. And even started a garden and grew for them.
Oh,
And
nice.
that's kind of how we kind of started that spark.
Yep.
So that kind of brings us to today, I guess.
Well, can I ask you? I
of
always
course.
like to get the high
Please.
schools.
Oh yeah,
What? Yeah.
So I went to Lakeland High School in
Yeah.
White Lake. Yep.
And I went to Avondale High School in Auburn Hills.
All right, I know both of those schools because I was like a wrestler in high school, so we always are,
Yeah.
learning all of the high schools all over the state.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. So yeah, what's going on today?
Yeah. So we started an LLC, Lindsay and I, in 2019, which was basically the formal, for us, I think, kind of first step toward independence through growing and creating wages for ourselves through growing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's out here in Dansville, which is about 40 minutes south from Lansing. So we live on about 7.5 acres out here. We have about 1/8 of an acre under cultivation right now.
All right.
And so yeah, this last 2 years focused on a CSA for 10 families. And then we also made a really great partnership with a vegan chef. And we're both vegan, and that's a big part of how we grow too, is veganically. So that is a big part of where we're at right now.
So let's take care of a couple of acronyms real quick. I'll start with the LLC. Would you tell us what an LLC is?
So it's a limited liability corporation, and it's a way that we could kind of like get the ball rolling with starting a business. And what else would you have to say?
We
about
were
that?
advised to do that. I know there are a lot of different ways that you can, create money for yourself independently, and we're not by any means recommending or suggesting that it's a necessary step, but it does provide some protections for us to engage in commerce, through things that we create and grow.
Yeah. And it protects your personal assets from your
Right.
business assets and things like that. So I wanted to clean that up a little bit.
Yeah.
And because we always try to educate a little bit on the show.
Yeah.
And then CSA. Would you tell us what that is?
Yeah, definitely.
The CSA is a community supported agriculture. So oftentimes it guarantees a part of the produce or harvest that we have on the farm to an individual. And so
They generally pay up front.
yeah, and generally pay up front. We didn't do it that way because that's not 100% accessible for people all the time to come up with like an upfront large sum of money to guarantee, you know, a potential harvest in the future. So we really did it week by week if people wanted to do that. And so, yeah, we would deliver a bag full of vegetables and herbs every week and flowers, to people that we knew that were kind of in our network to get started on our property here in Dansville.
Okay. Do you measure like I don't know how you would measure. Do you measure by pound how much you give? Well, here's my question. Let me start over. Do you know how many meals you would have distributed over the summer with your, or was it only in the summer, or do you grow?
We did like a 20-week CSA.
Okay.
Yep. And we did about I'd say we did 5 families every week for 20 weeks. And each of those deliveries was anywhere from 15 to 20, sometimes 30 pounds when you get potatoes and carrots in there. So yeah, you're talking about, and then, I mean, the greens too, you know, it's so funny when you think about greens and how nourishing they are, but they don't really equate to a lot of weight. So when when you think about, oh, well, it was so much work, but what was the weight? And you're like, oh man.
Yeah. And so we also did, the general dollar value that we said we would at least be meeting every week was $30 worth of value in our bags, but we often did much above that. Like he said, if we had big harvests, that we had a lot of different vegetables coming in at the same time, people would get a little bit of everything. And so you could really let that, kind of work all those vegetables into your full week of meals.
A lot of diversity too, so a lot of different crops. And that was I would say the big takeaway for me was that the diversity that we grew for that CSA was really pulling us in, in directions that we were really spinning out there trying to get, sometimes 6, 7, 8 different varieties of fresh, hand harvested that day stuff in a bag for our friends and family. That was a really formative experience, and it was just a small scale for us, so we've actually thought, for the future that maybe we'll work on something a little bit different. So
I know that you farm in I'm going to call it a non-traditional way, but it also was probably the traditional way.
Really?
So I'm not quite sure how to say that, but I want to talk about the word diversity, because here at the Fledge, we use biomimicry, and diversity is a huge part of that for us. Why was diversity important for you? And we'll walk back into your farming techniques.
I love it. Yeah, diversity in an agricultural sense and horticulture sense for me really means growing all these different vegetables, herbs, flowers together so that there's like a symbiotic relationship. They all support each other. And, part of that, you can look at it as a small scale, whether it's like the insects and the pollinators that benefit from having flowers next to vegetables, and we benefit from having the pollination increase on some of these crops. And for me, even like the aesthetic is something that I consider too. It's much more beautiful for me to see a patchwork of different colors and textures and drawing all these different insects, and rather than just seeing like really straight, one monocrop.
You can say rosa corn.
Rosa corn and wheat and soy. It's there's a lot more there when you have a diversity. It's just like better for the environment, for the insects, for the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, the word that you really hit that struck me when you said it, because I was really hoping this word would come up, is the symbiotic relationships between things, because that is so important as you look into like the future and making something that's sustainable. So would you tell us like some of your, I think you say no-till and organic and all of
Yeah.
that. Will you talk about that a little bit? And did you grow soy?
We haven't grown kind of some of the more traditional crops yet, really. We, being vegans, we're definitely drawn to growing our own soy and kind of expanding into grains too.
Yeah.
But so some of the kind of methods that we use, like you said, non-traditional, but in a sense, what they've always done before, we had this kind of standard industrialized agriculture was using organic methods. And so for us, that means not using synthetic chemicals like fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides. Roundup would probably be a pretty well-known word that is associated with industrial agriculture, and some of the impacts that we've seen, how that can negatively affect not only people but our ecosystem. We're all kind of connected. So we employed that technique, and then we also really try to limit the amount of disruption that we have in our soil, and so we do that by limiting the use of tillage. We've seen that it works really well to initially establish a plot, but we really benefit from keeping the soil structure and all of the beneficial kind of relationships that exist that take a long time to establish, whether it's like fungal or it's insect, or even just the nutrients in the soil structure itself really helps to also eliminate erosion, so soil erosion and compaction. And so these can affect our waterways, these can affect, the way that our crops grow and access minerals and nutrients. So we really try to incorporate like a low till into our agricultural practices.
So we didn't talk about language before the show started, but can I swear anytime I say Monsanto during
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
We just don't say that.
I know. I
Yeah.
just
Don't say that word.
Well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fuck Monsanto. Sorry.
Yes.
The reason I was curious about soy is because it's really hard to grow soy that hasn't been impacted by the GMOs. And I know that soy and corn and some of the bigger crops, I mean, it's almost impossible to get away from it now.
Yep. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
genetically modifying a plant that has existed perfectly for so long to withstand a really toxic neurotoxin and without killing it is something that is unnatural in my opinion. It's unnecessary. There's other ways that we can work with nature rather than try to destroy.
Yeah. So how many acres did you say you had, and how many are you farming right now?
So we have a total of 7.5 acres. A lot of it is like wooded and kind of wetland. So we are only we have like probably an acre paddock, but we're only cultivating about 1/8 of an acre right now.
Okay. Will you be expanding that?
Yeah, definitely. That's our plan.
That's the point that we're at right now. That's a lot of the conversations we're having right now, and especially trying to identify some partnerships that we can kind of use as an example for the worthiness that we might have to expand our business. So that's definitely on our mind a lot. And to Lindsay's point about the way that tilling kind of affects the landscape, I think you'd agree that out here in where we're at, Bunker Hill Township, there's a lot of rolling hills. I mean, it's really beautiful. But to see that some of these fields, are completely bare from spring through the season because of the water that's accumulated, because there's and if the drainage is there, it's decrepit or it's inefficient. It's like this land that we had was so beautiful that we could grow on. And again, for us as vegans, we know a lot of this corn and soy is probably not maybe going for human consumption, but in fact, maybe it's being packaged for other, for animal feed and other things like that. So, we look at it as a problem in a lot of different ways. And so, I guess that you drive around here in the spring and it's just half these fields are flooded, and they're all running the tractor again right around the flooded puddle.
Right.
So it's
So
just lost on us.
So it's like, how can we work
Yeah.
with what we have in nature rather than trying to control and manipulate it?
Yeah.
Right.
So, there's so many things that, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Fledge again, because it's
Yeah, please.
a lot of our principles are based on the principles you're talking about. It's we play the hand that we're dealt. We're living in a chaotic world. Whatever it is that the resource we have at the given time, we're going to take advantage of that, and not trying to fix everything. We're just trying to make a soup with the ingredients we have, or whatever. So why? So you're not going to fill in the wetlands, and I think we're kind of clear on that. That would be your stance. How do you utilize the wetlands? How does that help you? Some of the things when you're growing.
Well, it's beautiful to see what actually grows in the wetlands, for one. Obviously, if there's things that we use for personal use that we use out there, that we come in and use them, on a daily basis, that we're always leaving some out there for, the pollinators and for the environment. But yeah, I mean, how many animals do you think survive in just this small section that we have on our property that isn't somebody's backyard, isn't a soybean or corn right across the street? Yeah, I mean, we just kicked up 3 or 4 deer just the other day, and not to mention red squirrels and
the bird population. It's a haven for birds and for other insects.
It's a safety zone in a way.
Right. And the kind of what Bryan was saying, some of the things that naturally grow that are, whether they're natively found in this area or invasive, really thrive. And so like one of those that comes to mind is like elderberry and elderflower. That's something that loves wetlands. That is, not only beneficial for humans that we can use and consume, but also for the animals. And so, not taking away the things that sustain the other creatures that live here is really important to us.
Yeah.
And, it helps having a low wetland area to have some of the water that goes onto our, property be there rather than in our fields.
Do you have a lawn? Do you mow your lawn?
We do have a lawn around our house.
Yeah, a small
just
one.
around our house.
Yeah.
We leave a lot, a little wild looking.
Section by section. Yeah. So this will be our 3rd year out here, and it's taking shape, but it's also kind of in a way rewilding. It's kind of interesting. We've popped up a bunch of grape mullins, which are really beautiful plants that actually exist when soil gets kind of disturbed but then left alone.
Right.
So it's fascinating, really.
And this property was really not maintained, if you want to say that, like we see traditional like lawns being mowed and very well kept. And so that really allowed some of the native plants to kind of take hold and thrive here. So things I was really surprised to see moving here, it was like so exciting to discover these little pockets of native plants. Like I find that really exciting, and I want to leave and kind of cherish those.
Yeah, we converted our lawn to all of a grow space and garden, and we're trying to do a lot of permaculture. And we had a lot of mullein pop up, and it was great. It was great because there's lots of uses for that too.
Yeah, there is.
So, so what would you say your mission is? Like, what are you on a mission to do?
So, I mean, we, I guess we have had the ability to like grow and develop the skills to learn how to be more self-sufficient and to grow with the environment and, use edible landscape as a means to enrich our lives, enrich others, lives. But really, being able to provide food to people is something that we really, really care about. And helping to ensure some of those basic needs are met. That's a really kind of central part of, I think, the ethics of us learning how to grow.
Right.
but as far as like where we want to take our business,
Right.
Being able to leverage opportunities, you know,
Our privilege.
and our privilege, you know, and any partnerships that we may be able to make, so that we can kind of not like center us, but how we can use our skills in a way of being of service to other people, and whether that is, you know, taking some of the funds or the things that we grow and redistributing that, you know, that wealth, is really a big part of what we want to do. And for us, that feeds into, you know, really being an active participant in helping to, you know, destroy some of the racist institutions that exist, is a really integral part of what we want to do with our mission of our business.
Yeah. Become an accomplice.
Yes, an accomplice. Did I say that to you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I was saying, dang, we really are in sync here. What's something you do every damn day to move that mission forward?
Yeah, for me, it's been the affirmations. You know, Lindsay's really been plugging me into, you know, really doing a lot of verbal, out loud, positive reaffirmations, and I guess you call them regular affirmations because they're every day, and it's a new challenge and it's a new feeling. But that has been a real big push for us, even, you know, before we came to see the Fledge for the first time, which again, I have to say is so in step with what, you know, we want to find is that food security piece, you know, is allowing that to be, you know, let that go so that people can move on, right? That's just exactly where I think we could be real good partners and hopefully grow together.
Yeah.
Do you think that universal basic food instead of universal basic income, do you think food's a right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a basic
Right.
need that everybody has.
Sure. I think that right's been taken away in a lot of ways. You know, I mean, it's so funny. Like, you can't even, in some ways, grow what you would want to eat in your front yard in some communities. You know, because you have to uphold a certain aesthetic. So yeah, it's terrible. I mean, really, and even like food knowledge and growing knowledge, like all that stuff's been stripped away from us, and you know, we've been taught that the food pyramid is somehow gonna keep you healthy, and in fact, now we look back on that and, you know, realize that it was all a lie. So,
and like I think
it's
part
the
of
right
that
that's been stolen. You
it's
know?
also like you know, the belief that, like you said, like people can't just grow their own, that they don't have the ability or the space, and you know, really, I feel like we are all, and we innately have that like natural ability to know, like, to pick a pea off of a pea pod off of a pea plant,
or a
you
fresh
know?
strawberry or raspberry, you know.
Yeah, so it's like we, you know, that's innate, I think, in all of us.
So victory gardens, should everybody have one?
Oh yeah, is that a thing?
Yeah, that was like in the 50s, right?
It's from World War II. Right. Where the country started growing their own, or people started growing their own food. It's where my knowledge came from, because my grandfather did it, or my grandmother did it, and then my grandfather when he came back from World War II. And we grew 3,000 starter plants that we gave out to the community to try to get victory gardens going last year. And we're going to do the same again this year, because food security is not going to go away, or food insecurity, sorry.
I think you've got a new victory coming up after COVID. It's a whole new victory garden.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think victory gardens, and you know, I see a lot of being able to incorporate, you know, not only some of those ornamentals that you may already have at your house or your apartment or wherever you live, but being able to incorporate any type of fruit and vegetable is just as beautiful as any other ornamental plant. And so I totally think that everybody has, you know, I know that there are a lot of limitations, not everybody has the space, but you know, to be able to have your neighbors participating in that, and we can all kind of participate together into growing food for each other, I think is is in my mind kind of
Oh, yeah.
how that next victory garden
Yeah.
would look like,
Right.
you know.
I'm gonna ask you guys for some help in the spring,
Yeah.
because I tried to make some pots that people could put on their balcony if they didn't have the yard. I lost
Okay.
them for a little bit, and I put like cabbage in some of them, and I had eggplants in others, and then I did too much sometimes, and I put an eggplant and a pepper plant, and they didn't do too well together. So I was experimenting. So I need some of that symbiotic
Love it.
consulting as we go in.
We would love to
yeah.
help you with that.
Yeah,
That would be awesome.
I'm gonna need it. And there's one other thing I want to just say, but I won't. You said a corporate chain, and so I won't say any names. But you have been instrumental, Bryan, in helping us feed the community, and you are a hero to me. When I get a text message from you, I get a lot of text messages, and sometimes I'm cringing, and it's triggering me, and it's traumatic.
Right.
When I get a text message,
that's the cause that we're
no.
bring, so. Yeah.
When I get a text message from you, I'm like, a lot of meals are going out today because we have served a lot of meals because of you, sir. You and your teams,
Jerry, I'm so happy that that's happening. But I think that you and I could both agree, and I know Lindsay and I have talked about it, that the cause of that is, I think, is an issue. That
I do
that
too.
if we're willing to, but again, I cannot discount the benefit that it's bringing. And so, again, like for you all to be there and to be the ones that are there to catch it when it falls, unfortunately, and make sure that it finds a mouth.
Like that's
is really the key here. But hey, if I'm willing to take part in a piece of that process, of course we'll do it every step of the way for sure.
Right.
Yeah. And go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I was gonna say, a big part of I think what his experience has been in grocery retail is that there's so much waste that could be going
and no food knowledge.
It's so like he said, it highlights a huge issue, but it's wonderful that that food is getting to people who need it.
And so again, thank you very much. And it's a short-term immediate solution to a short-term immediate need. It's direct action, but ultimately I want every front yard on this street to be a victory garden.
Love it. Absolutely.
So So now we're going to daisy chain the shows together. So yesterday we had a young woman named Kiana who's just absolutely fascinating. She's 18 years old and she understands entrepreneurialism better than most. And her question for you is there an educational component? And you just said knowledge a second ago. So the answer, what's the educational component here? What's part of the mission that's more than just, hey, here's a box of food?
Right.
But
so I've had the ability to work. I got to work in community gardens where education was a huge component of what I did, and I just loved doing that. So that's definitely a big part of what we believe moving forward is that, like I said, everybody can build capacity. Everybody can build on skills and learning. And while like I said, I know that things are innate, that we know how to do this. Being able to, be there to answer simple questions of what do I fertilize with? What is this bug? What is this weed? That is a huge part of what we want to contribute.
And with your garden designs, incorporating the native plants and kind of re-educating a little bit about why some native plants are more beneficial to our environment. You want to offer a lot of free classes and free online resources to allow people to do some of the things we do with our tea blends and some of the things we do with our hand solves and other things. So she wants to open up those avenues for people to get information that way. For sure.
So, hopefully we can bring some of those offerings to the Fledge if that is something that people are interested in.
Yeah, if that's something that's needed there.
Our crowd loves you guys. I can already tell. I mean, you are in sync with us, and we picked up on that when we were doing the tour. before I go to the question for tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of the first spring after you kind of did your first kind of getting things going,
Yeah.
and everything just starts popping up, like maybe it's a fruit tree or it's something, raspberries or strawberries that you don't necessarily have to plant again.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great feeling?
Yeah.
I love perennials, like you said, something that comes back every year so much, because I remember being able to go out into the garden and it's still snowy, it's still gray, and being able to pinch a little bit of lemon balm and mint and smell that, it literally brings me to tears. It brings me so much joy. And it has such an element of like hope, you know, and like looking forward to the future and bringing my senses back alive. I mean, it's it's a huge joy of mine. So yeah, I'm already counting down to spring for sure.
I'm already getting tears in my eyes. Are you an empath too, Bryan?
Oh yeah, definitely feeling very connected. And like you say, you know, when the plans come up, it's one thing, you know, but in a business sense, I almost like it more when there's more than we can handle, you know. But I think we're gonna find in the future that being more in control of it is going to be better for us, and there'll still be a lot to do, but it'll be more, you know, more directed. And but yeah, we love to grow, and so sometimes it's directing it is
right.
I love the investment. You make an investment one year and then it just you can see it. I mean it's physical. You can see it giving you returns, and it's you know, that's the business side of it. But like you also said, you know, those smells and that green and that we're getting out of this winter funk and we're about to pop, and man, it's exciting.
It is.
So on the show tomorrow, I have Sarah Gross, who works for the Michigan Historic Museum, and I met her through doing some StoryCorps work, recording stories here at the Fledge, and she's gonna. Well, anyways, I don't know. Maybe she wants to say this tomorrow because maybe people don't know. So I gotta be careful for a second. But what question? What question would you like to ask Sarah?
Yeah, I guess what comes to mind for us would be, you know, what kind of stories are out there that aren't being told that maybe she feels the time is now to tell. Maybe more, whether it be about, you know, environmental justice, obviously, you know, social and racial justice, you know, food justice, food insecurity. You know, what kind of stories are out there? Yeah, that.
Well,
you know,
let me turn that on you.
Yeah.
What story do you think needs to be told, or stories needs to be told?
Yeah, I think for me, I guess if you want to add one, I think that the you know, unfortunately, the animal agriculture aspect of our farm economy, I think, is not only the way that it's subsidized by the government and influenced by our you know, dietary guidelines. I think, you know, that they probably cause a lot of harm potentially to a lot of people over time, and the way that those ingredients are synthesized in our bodies. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a story to be told there, and I'd like to think that we're maybe starting to tell it a little bit by bit. So
yeah,
what about you?
And for me, I think a lot of the practices that have been really whitewashed in agriculture. So, for example, a lot of people hold on to like the terms of regenerative agriculture. These principles are not new. Like you were talking about traditional versus non-traditional farming. They've been practiced by people, the original people of this land. And, you know, kind of not whitewashing those terms and holding on to those methods, but really, you know, giving respect and connecting with people who have always been doing that. I think that's a big story that needs to be told in particularly Michigan agriculture.
So I'm trying to find a pair for rendering plants. Gross or not gross?
Wait, what do you mean?
Do you know what a rendering plant? Oh, well, let me step back a little bit. You ever watch like Food Inc? Is that a good movie for people? That
Oh, yeah.
documentary?
Have we seen
And
that
just
I think, yeah.
one? I'm not sure.
yeah, just the corporate farming.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that movie or that documentary was made by a guy who was a third generation farmer
Uh-huh.
and basically saying these corporate guys are screwing us, you know, that company that's name we will not mention. And just people need to research and find out
Yeah.
about food.
Right.
That box of mac and cheese and that bag of chips is not a good source of
Right.
nutrition.
Right. And a big part of, you know, in some of my work working with children specifically, asking where does your food come from, and they say either a truck or a can.
Oh yeah. The store.
Right. The store
comes from the store.
Right. Kind of another part of that education that we would want to be able to offer to people, that, you know, it's like you said, there's a long journey, and it goes through many hands. A lot of people who don't, you know, even make a livable wage to get to your plate. So I think that's a huge part of how we view the food system.
Is the Food Inc. the one where he talks about the chemicals and their food-like substances? Yeah.
Yes.
Food-like substances. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. No, sorry, I didn't mean to catch you like that. So at the end of every show, I surprise question everyone. And my surprise question is that what do you want to leave us with? What's a message? Do you need help with anything? Is there any events you're doing? Do you have some online presence? What do you want to leave us with?
Sure. So we'll plug a couple things. We are at the Meridian Market tomorrow, which is December the 19th. December the 19th.
Yeah.
That's tomorrow, Saturday. We'll be there from 10 a.m. to 2. You can access our services online at wilddawnfarms.com. You can connect with us there. We're also on Instagram. You can search Wild Dawn Farms. You can send us an email, wilddawnfarms@gmail.com. And I guess what would you want to leave them with, sweetheart? What else is on your mind right now?
Oh, so much after this conversation.
Yeah, we really appreciate this time. It means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, for me, we're at this point where we're really excited to be taking actionable steps to be more engaged in community, and we just want to help people kind of connect with nature, however that fits for them.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we just really look forward to, you know, kind of the next spring already. You know, we're already thinking spring, and so we want to get there and help people start their victory gardens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you two are super badass. You are a power couple that's I'm amazed by. And, you know, I wish we had a lot more time because, you know, you were talking a lot about racial justice and social equities and things like that. And I would have loved to expounded on that. But I think your farming technique is so interesting that I wanted to focus there and to see those connections between food and justice and food and equity building is just.
So just here's one last thing, Jerry. If you didn't catch, Ben and Jerry's partnered with Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights camp to create Change the World, right? A signature flavor.
Yeah.
And they're gonna donate all the profits and then match those profits and put that toward Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights camp organization. We need to see more of that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. We want to be a part of finding groups and people to partner with us to do stuff like that.
Less about big business and corporate and the bottom dollar, and more about
these activists and these organizations and these people that are doing the things that we need to be doing to change the way we live.
And holding other businesses accountable to have a social mission. It's not enough just to have a product and to sell things. There needs to be a lot more behind it, at least for us.
And I'm going to leave us with one quick quote, and it is from Chief Seattle. And it says that, and I'll quote him directly, man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. And anything he does to the web, he does to himself. So when we screw with our food supply, our land, our nature, our pollinators, you're screwing with yourself. So do something good for yourself. Take care of that web. So
That's awesome.
I'm learning how to sign, so I'm going to say see you later. And peace
Awesome.
out is good.
Cool.
And I love this conversation. So I'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks for
Same.
your
We
time,
can't
Jerry.
wait. Thank you,
Talk to you
Jerry.
soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.